Jean Grey is one of the most iconic X-Men characters. First created in 1963 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, she debuted in the X-Men issue 1 and has remained one of the key characters of the group ever since. She's also one of the most powerful, and her Phoenix saga, despite the retcons, is one many X-Men fans still have a soft spot for in their hearts. But the Earth 616 version of Jean isn't the only time we've ever seen the character flex a major power. Today we are taking a closer look at those variations of her, with our list of the top 10 strongest alternate versions of Jean Grey. Let's jump in. And at 10, the Black Queen from Earth 39259. The Black Queen is Jean Grey of Earth 39259, an Earth that appears in What If Volume 2, Issue 59. As is the case with a handful of the alternates of Jean on our list, this version of Jean has powers that parallel her 616 counterpart, but is significantly more dangerous thanks to the position she's in on this alternate Earth. This Earth's narrative becomes distinct when Wolverine is captured by Alpha Flight, after he departs from the X-Men. The X-Men attempt to rescue him, but the Canadian military end up gunning them down, which seems uncharacteristic of the Canadian military, but so Wolverine ends up sticking with Alpha Flight and becomes their leader. Here's where Jean comes in. Because the leader of the X-Men are gone, the strong psychic ends up joining the Hellfire Club, falling under their influence. Because of this, Wolverine and Alpha Flight attempt to rescue her, but to their surprise, it is too late. She already becomes the Dark Phoenix, which apparently means wearing a uniform that is fishnets, a corset, and a thong, and is incredibly powerful. Ultimately, her story ends when Wolverine kills her in order to stop her from losing control and destroying the planet. Moving on to number 9, Jean Grey of Earth 10005. We had to toss in one of the cinematic adaptations of the X-Men onto this list. Now we're specifically looking at the first Fox iteration of the character. Sorry Sophie Turner, but I've always been more of a fan of Meek Jensen's Jean Grey. Anywho, rather than get into the narrative of that adaptation, let's take a look at what she can do ability-wise. It's noted in the films by Charles Xavier that she's the only Class 5 mutant that he's ever encountered, and that her potential is practically limitless thanks to her mutation occurring in the unconscious part of her mind. Xavier had to put mental blocks in her mind in order to keep her powers at bay, and allow for her to control them. But without those blocks, her power is completely unstable, and her telepathy, telekinesis, and empathic abilities are limitless. After Jean seemingly died, she would return in the Phoenix saga, with the Phoenix persona manifesting within her. It comes to life as less of a Phoenix Force in these films and more of a part of Jean, part of a dissociative identity disorder, with her losing power of her abilities if she became emotionally unstable. Moving on to number 8, Poison Marvel Girl from Earth 17952. Here we have a version of Jean Grey that appeared in the Venomverse story event, one that was assimilated into the Poison's hive. Now the Poisons are the predatory race trying to assimilate and wipe out the Clintars, the race of symbiotes that the Venom symbiote belongs to. This alternate Marvel Girl attempted to fight the symbiote-bonded X-Men. Aside from sharing the same abilities with the 616 Jean Grey, this version of the character is capable of all the things that those of her race are. Once bonded to a host, she can weaponize the assimilated symbiote's biomass, transforming it into things like weapons or tentacles. Eventually, the host will die. Hosts are generally kept alive long enough to use their bodies as a nutrient source while the bonding process is completed. She ends up getting killed though by another version of Jean Grey who becomes the Phoenix and destroys the hive in the process. And at 7, BEATRIZ Grey from Earth 9602. BEATRIZ Grey is from the Amalgam universe, a shared universe between the DC and Marvel comics in which the characters are amalgamated into one persona. This is the combination of Jean Grey and DC's Fire, aka Beatrice DaCosta. The result is a character who is a meta-mutant who has powerful psychokinetic flame abilities. A mix between DaCosta's pyroplasmic form, which causes her body to take on a fiery form at will, and pyrokinesis, and then Jean Grey's immense telekinetic and telepathic abilities. BEATRIZ Grey is known as Firebird and is one of the New Blood, the name for the second generation of recruits to the Judgment League Avengers. She eventually would join the Justice League X-Men, but when the Dark Firebird saga came around, she became a member of the Hellfire Club of Injustice. Oh, all of the amalgamated team names. Ugh. And at 6, Phoenix from Earth TRN 713. In Groot issue 2, we get to see a glimpse of Earth TRN 713, in which everyone is a Groot alternate, and there's a Groot Lactus threatening to devour the Earth. Get it? Groot Galactus? Groot Lactus. Ugh. It's essentially a dream of the 616 Groots. Anywho, this version of Jean Grey is also a Groot and has the combined powers of the Phoenix and Groot, which is pretty neat. She was one of the heroes who approached Groot in his dream requesting his help to save the universe, and then joins in the battle with the X-Men to fight off Groot Lactus. She's also considered to be a mutant Flora Colossi. That's pretty neat. And at 5, Age of Apocalypse Jean. From Earth 295, or rather the Age of Apocalypse timeline, this version of Jean Grey has it kinda rough. So for context, if you didn't know, Age of Apocalypse is an Earth in which Charles Xavier was killed off, spawning Apocalypse to attack sooner, and the mutant resistance being under the guidance of Magneto instead. Jean is one of Magneto's students, who ends up falling in love with this Earth's Wolverine alternate known as Weapon X. The character ends up getting captured by Mr. Sinister, who wants her to join his team. She rejects, and of course he doesn't like that, so he tosses her into his breeding pens, using her DNA combined with Cyclops' to engineer the perfect mutant, X-Man, Nate Grey. Weapon X rescues her, and she ends up joining up with the High Human Council, but learns of their plan to destroy Apocalypse by dropping nukes on him and the rest of the USA. She's opposed to it and tries to use her psychic abilities to hold back the nukes, but seemingly dies. It's later revealed that she was the one who stopped the nukes from hitting the High Human Council, and was resurrected by Mr. Sinister in the aftermath. That's when she starts displaying her Phoenix Force abilities, which on this Earth is called Mutant Alpha. At first, Jean doesn't recall her previous life and leads a team to fight the X-Men called the Sinister Six. Cute. But ends up coming face to face with Weapon X, who manages to help her remember things. She then turns on Mr. Sinister and kills him by incinerating him, eventually leading the X-Men at Magneto's request. In at 4, the Red Queen from Earth 9575. The Red Queen is an alternate we actually talked about on one of our scariest alternate versions of X-Men list. She is quite frightful. This Jean has been banished off of her own world of Earth 9575 and ended up on Earth 998, all thanks to her criminal past. She stirs up a plan, deciding to pretend that she's the reincarnation of Queen Madeline, that Earth's alternate of her 616 clone Madeline Pryor. She then attempts to take over Britain, becoming their queen, and plans to conquer the rest of the world as well. And she does this by enhancing her powers, all by acquiring what she believes is the ultimate weapon the Marvel Multiverse has to offer: Nate Grey, and all of his alternate versions. She begins to lure all of these Nates to her new Earth, sucking them dry of their life force and power, killing them, and then disposing of them, only to get a brand new Nate to use. She eventually tries to lure the Nate Grey from 616, but that plan backfires, causing her to use up all of her Nates to increase her power to try to defeat him. Ultimately, he kills her by creating a sun around her body, burning her to death. Talk about a way to go. And at 3, Jean Grey of Earth 8649. This Jean comes from the first volume of The Exiles, appearing in issues 3 and 4. Earth 8649 is a place that's well into the Dark Phoenix saga. The Jean of this universe is the Dark Phoenix wholeheartedly. They try to defeat her via trial by combat, pretending to be representatives of the world that she destroyed. But they realize she is far too gone to try to reverse the situation. She's vaporized Storm, Cyclops, and Gladiator, and the Exiles realize that the only way to end her reign of terror is to kill her. Not such an easy feat though. The team managed to overwhelm her, with Wolverine attempting to get close enough to her to stab her through the heart. He succeeds, and Jean explodes, vaporizing the moon and the Shi'ar ships orbiting it nearby. Needless to say, it causes major devastation, but luckily the Exiles team are removed from this reality before the blast occurs. Moving on to number 2, Armageddon from Earth 2182. Armageddon, compared to the other numbers on our list, is a bit more of an unconventional alternate of Jean. Rather, he's kind of her spawn. He's a combination between Jean Grey and Apocalypse, made by the latter with the genetic material of both of them, with the intention of him being the ultimate weapon. So many ultimate weapons. So what makes him so deadly? Well, he's got all of the powers of Jean Grey, plus all of the ridiculously immense and powerful abilities of Apocalypse. Luckily for Earth 2182, Armageddon decides to turn his back on Apocalypse, rejecting his ideologies, and joins up with the X-Men, who are led by Wolverine. On this world, Wolverine killed Professor X, and in doing so became paralyzed himself. Oh, the irony. Ultimately leading the team of mutants. Not much is known about Armageddon's mother, Jean, prior to his creation. She died under unknown circumstances after Professor Xavier was killed. And finally, in at number 1, Zombie Jean Grey from Earth 2149. Jean Grey's zombie counterpart is horrifying, and also very, very strong. Prior to the zombie plague, not much is really known about her life. Her story really begins when Alpha Flight attacked the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, ultimately causing her to be infected by the virus. She's later seen in the comics flying to the Baxter Building to prevent Magneto's escape. She really comes into her full power though later on when she's possessed by the Phoenix Force, leading her to join the Zombie Galacti, the group of zombie superheroes who ate the Silver Surfer and Galactus, gaining their power cosmic. As Zombie Phoenix, she has access to all of the abilities she would normally have from the Phoenix Force, including vast telepathy and telekinesis, along with cosmic pyrokinesis, the ability to control matter, energy, and thoughts, and the ability to resurrect herself after death, which surely came into handy when her original body died in a battle against the Zombie Hulk after joining the Galacti, whom he was a member of. To be fair, Zombie Hulk was sort of a dick all around and kinda killed a lot of other zombies. He smashed Thanos' head by doing that. It was A little dramatic. Alright, there we have it, friends. What other versions of Jean Grey can you think of that are super powerful? Give us a shout out in those comments below and share your thoughts. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for more lists just like this one. We've got a ton of other X-Men alternate theme lists just waiting for you to watch them, so make sure you check out the playlist that is currently flashing on your screen. In the meantime though, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.